Hello everybody, do you want to achieve a healthy, longer life? Well, let's get into it. My name is Sinu, and you can call me Sin, with an X, not an S. I'm a doctor training to be a neurologist in the United Kingdom and currently a PhD student in neuroscience at the University of Oxford. Welcome to another video from my series called An Oxford Academic Talk, where I discuss interesting brain science research from events around Oxford University in a way that is accessible to anyone who is interested. Find out more about this series in my introduction video. I recently attended a fascinating talk by Professor Sarah Harper, who works in the Oxford Institute of Aging and has done incredible research on the epidemiology of aging and other social and public health topics. Let's start with my top 3 takeaways before I delve into some of the finer points. Number 1, life expectancy is getting longer, but research is now focusing more and more on healthy life expectancy rather than just living longer. Now that makes a lot of sense, quality over quantity. However, are we achieving this? Well, listen on. 2, our global population is growing exponentially, but this has been projected to slow and plateau by the middle of the century. There are different factors affecting this, and it is complicated. Thirdly, living longer and better is all about the simple stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy to achieve. Factors such as diet and education are associated with living longer and better, rather than some wonder drug that can reverse cellular aging. Let's get started with what is happening to our life expectancy and why. We are living longer and expected to live longer than anyone who has lived before us. One measure of life expectancy is the age that half of the population born in a given year are expected to live to. In 1951, that age was 45 for those born in England and Wales. In 2011, half the population born in that year are expected to live till 85 years of age. Now that is a significant increase. We have effectively succeeded in pushing back death. So why are people living longer? Well, one way is to examine what has happened to the main causes of death over time. Sarah showed us a graph on male mortality over the last 100 years. Mortality means causes of death. And these numbers are based on the Office of National Statistics in the United Kingdom. At the bottom of the graph is the year, and on the side is the death rate from a particular cause. When considering 4 main causes of death, infection, respiratory illness, cancers, and cardiovascular disease, we see that apart from cancer, death rates are actually all declining. We are better at fighting infections due to improved treatments such as antibiotics. For respiratory illnesses, you can see there was a sharp increase in deaths in 1919, largely due to the Spanish flu epidemic, but death numbers have greatly improved since then. Unfortunately, this graph does not take into account our current COVID-19 pandemic, which will undoubtedly cause another spike when we look back in the years to come. Cancer is interesting because we know that cancer diagnosis rates are actually generally increasing. However, death caused by cancer has stayed relatively static over the last 100 years. This reflects a combination of more cancer diagnosis. However, we are also better at treating it and also stopping people from dying from cancer. Mortality from cardiovascular disease has also improved along the years, and this is thought to be related to better public health initiatives such as smoking cessation. So what about the rest of the world? Well, life expectancy has suddenly been increasing throughout the world, including European countries, East Asian countries, and South America. Interestingly, amongst European nations, it looks like the Mediterranean regions have a higher life expectancy on average, and this includes when comparing north and south of France. So this means the effect doesn't simply follow country borders. This effect is thought to be related to the Mediterranean lifestyle, which includes that amazing diet and also the social scene which they have there. Interestingly, life expectancy is overall higher for women compared to men across different geographic locations. Now I'll let you debate why that may be the case in the comments below. Now, how old is oldest, and will there be a peak age that we reach? Well, previously it was thought that humans will reach a biological peak age. As recently as 2016, there was a debate in Nature, a well-known scientific journal, suggesting that the maximum lifespan of humans is fixed at around 115 years of age. The data, however, shows that the oldest age that we are expected to live is still increasing, and that has really made scientists rethink the whole aging process. In fact, the number of centenarians, which are people who live till age 100, is modeled to increase at an exponential-like rate in the United Kingdom. Now, a side note of interest, there is a term called supercentenarians. This is used for individuals who live till 110 years of age. How amazing is that? What's even more amazing is that there is a list of every supercentenarian on each continent found on Wikipedia. I think that's really terrific. I wonder if I will ever make it onto that list. Now, what does living longer mean for the world population? This is something I'm very interested in. Currently, the global population is increasing at an exponential rate. Now, there are nuances depending on different regions of the world, but this holds true even for developed countries for various reasons such as migration. I asked Sarah what longer life expectancy means for this trend, and apparently the global increase in population is projected to slow and even plateau, with some models suggesting this would happen by 2050. In a simplistic view, there are two main factors that contribute to global population growth, and these are birth rates and people living longer. Apparently, birth rates have already started to slow and is below what is called replacement level in most areas of the world apart from sub-Saharan Africa. And the current rise in population has mainly been due to people living longer. I think this is a really fascinating topic and deserves a video on its own. So how do we live longer and better at the same time? As I mentioned at the beginning, it is not just about life expectancy, but also quality of life. In medicine, we often consider a physiological age reflecting the health status of an individual for a given age. We compare this to biological age, which reflects the number of years someone has been alive. Ideally, you want to have a low physiological age for your biological age. Now, my first 2 points are actually about how we do not live better, and it is firstly not all about our genes. Yes, we know that there is a small proportion of the population who appears to age less fast and develop less age-related disease. However, this does not account for the whole population shifting together towards a healthy, longer living. So there must be some important environmental factors, and understanding these factors means everyone can benefit. Secondly, the answer to living better is not some magic pill that stops our cells from dying or turning over. Now, this may change in the future with more investment into research into fields such as regenerative medicine. But up till now, the factors associated with healthy longevity appear to be more mundane, but just as important. Now, one caveat to measuring healthy living is that it can be tricky. Unfortunately, the data on quality of life has been much harder to investigate than simple life expectancy. There are several reasons for this, including the fact that the age of dying is a single number which is easy to record. However, there are many measurements of quality of life, including disability-adjusted years, healthy life years, and this information is slightly harder to come by and has some inconsistencies in them. Let's look at 3 commonly studied factors: smoking, alcohol, and obesity. Evidence describes that both smoking and alcohol consumption will reduce life expectancy and increase disabled life expectancy. That means living with poor quality of life. Obesity is slightly more interesting. It appears that obesity mainly increases disability years, so poor quality of life, but it has less effect on overall life expectancy. Still, I took it as all 3 are important factors to address for living longer and better. Sarah also addressed how education level is important for quality of life and living longer. Now, this relates closely to dementia rates. The risk of developing dementia increases as we get older. Now, we know that dementia has a huge age component. However, the epidemiological data suggests that the dementia rates aren't actually increasing as quickly as we would expect. One prominent explanation for this is better levels of education for successive generations that come after us. This leads to the concept of developing cognitive reserve. Cognitive reserve is something I commonly come across during my neurology job. It essentially refers to building a high cognitive baseline from investment into education. This baseline will effectively hold off the effects of dementia longer than if you had a poor education baseline. Now, the mechanism for cognitive reserve is much less clear. It could be that highly intelligent people or well-educated people have more to lose before they are considered to have problems with their memory and being diagnosed with dementia. Or there may be a direct effect that education has on developing the brain, which makes our brain more resistant to neurodegeneration. This is certainly a topic of ongoing interest and research, and something I would like to talk more about in later videos. In summary, I've discussed several topics around living longer and better. We are definitely living longer, and there are many reasons behind this. Living longer is not enough, and we should focus on quality over quantity. Currently, living longer is associated with important factors such as controlling diet, smoking prevention, and education, rather than some specific drug or medication. Now, I think this has important implications on how we live our lives, but also what government policy should target to ensure healthy nations. Now, I'm sorry I couldn't cover other areas that was discussed, such as the importance of socioeconomic factors to healthy life expectancy, but I'm happy to continue the conversation in the comments below. Now, why don't you let me know, how old do you want to live, and how are you going to achieve that? Subscribe to my channel to continue learning more about brain science with me, and I will see you at the next video. Thank you.